Award-winning Quebec filmmaker and director Jean-Marc Vallée has died at the age of 58. Vallee's representative says he died suddenly in his cabin outside of Quebec City over the weekend. Vallée won an Emmy for the hit HBO series Big Little Lies, and he earned multiple Oscar nominations for the 2013 drama Dallas Buyers Club. For more on this, let's bring in film critic Richard Crouse. Richard, first of all, this is such sad news for fans of Jean-Marc Vallee's work. So many people were, such big fans of the shows, the films. Talk to us a little bit about what was going through your mind this morning when you learned of his passing.
This is terribly sad news to wake up to. Only 58 years old, Jean-Marc Vallée left behind an incredible legacy of really good movies and television that I think people will go on to enjoy for many years to come. But what I loved about watching Crazy or The Young Victoria or Dallas Buyers Club or Wild or Demolition or any of the television work that he did is that he brought a unique and very distinctive style to it. And doing some research just to make sure that I had all my facts correct before I came on here today, I read a number of interviews with him, including one that I did with him just after the release of Dallas Buyers Club, where he said, I don't try to interfere. I just stay out of the way and let the actors do their work. And that sounds easy to do, but it's the hardest thing to do on a film set is to, as a director, not to become intimately involved in the storytelling. He used natural light so that the actors could move and improvise and take the characters wherever they were meant to go. And that, to me, I think is probably the legacy that he leaves behind, are these films that feel naturalistic, that feel real when you watch them, filled with really interesting actors working, in many cases, at the top of their form.
Right, and so many big names as well. We'll get to that in a moment, but we actually have some pictures of when you recently met him. What can you tell us about that, and what can you tell us about him as well?
Well, this interview was actually a few years ago, but we did it in front of a live audience on a stage, and he came out wearing a mask, which you can see in the photograph here. And what he was making the point, or the point he was trying to make, was that as a director, you should stay behind the mask. Don't get too intimately involved in the story that you're telling, because you're not the person telling it. It's the actors that are telling it. It's the story that's telling you where to go. So he made the point in an amusing and very singular way, I thought, by wearing this mask for the first 10 minutes of the interview, probably. And then he took it off and we continued the conversation. But it just goes to show that he was someone who was unique, someone who was not afraid to take chances. It was a pretty chancy thing to do, to come out there and wear a mask and not really say much for the first 10 minutes or so of the interview. But then I walked away with a newfound respect for him, fearless, someone who was willing to take chances and knew how to entertain,
Right,
with that mask or without that mask.
And he really did work with such big names. We mentioned there, we saw Matthew McConaughey in some of the clips, Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, the list goes on. But he was also one of the most well-known directors to come out of Canada. Talk to us very quickly, we only have about 30 seconds here, about the impact that he had from that perspective.
Well, he was someone who was really adept at working with actors. And I think that's why these big names like Matthew McConaughey and Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon, who worked with him several times, and Amy Adams, gravitated towards him, because he really knew and respected actors. He let them do their work, to tell their stories, and to be creative in a way that a lot of other actors didn't. And he would often say that by stepping out of the story himself, he would allow the story to blossom, to bloom, because these actors would bring it to life.
Well, whether on film or in television, he definitely left an impact and an impression on so many of us. We thank you for sharing your impressions as well. Film critic Richard Crouse, thank you as always.
Thanks for having me.